All right, Tech Talk, round two. Let's get this thing started. Well, we got a few people in here. Why is Ben YSR joined in? He's supposed to be out there tuning trucks right now. Okay, so we got a few topics we want to talk about today. Some of our LT direct injection truck market we're trying to expand on. Camshafts, cylinder heads, intake manifolds, um, converter myths, misconceptions, converter and transmission maintenance and proper etiquette to keep your automatic transmission alive, and probably go over some maybe throw out a couple of upcoming products, some stuff we've got in the works, and let's see what we got going there. Anyways, let's start with the truck stuff. Anybody have any questions about any of our materials we've released or information on the truck camshafts, DI trucks, cam heads? We found the 6.2 truck engine shares most architecture with the LT1, and our truck market. When you're working a truck that's 5,000, 6,000 pounds, it's just a little different combination required to make that thing happy. 5.3 stuff, we recently really dove in on that stuff. We've got some drop-in pistons in the works for the 5.3 engine, drop-in pistons rod combo for the boosted guys. We already have that for the 6.2 engine. Let's see what we got. We've got complete cam lineup now for the 5.3 and the 6.2 truck engines, cam and ported cylinder heads. So, any questions? You guys fire away. I'm all ears.
Is the audio work? Because somebody messaged me saying they couldn't hear us.
In the beginning.
Like it just came through.
Hello.
She's saying no, they can't hear us.
The audio's going through. Internet quality's pretty poor. But audio's good.
Sorry, guys, we're battling some technical difficulties. We've been fighting some internet connection and audio.
Maybe we jump into the converter stuff.
Yeah.
We'll get back to you.
All right, well, we got some more people coming in here. Let's talk torque converters. The torque converter is one of the most common things that we get questions about. What do I need? People generally are scared of torque converters and putting too much converter in their vehicle. We look at torque converters on every application and try to do our best job in recommending the right converter for what the person wants to do. Oftentimes, people don't do enough torque converter. So, you end up with a poor, sluggish running vehicle. You don't really get your benefit there. You went through all this work and now you still have something that still doesn't 60 foot, still doesn't have the bottom end you need for the camshaft. So torque converter stuff needs to be matched up for your build. Don't go too tight on the converter. Triple disc, single disc, it doesn't matter. You also need to take in consideration a torque converter is going to create a lot more heat. You need to, put an adequate transmission cooler on there, and you need to take proper care of the transmission. You cannot beat on something over and over again, create all this heat, and not give it any kind of cool down time and expect things to be durable and reliable. You have to let this thing have some time. A converter generates a lot more heat because it creates some slippage. You're going to generate some heat, and there's no way around that. You have to, I don't even know. We get so much stuff about, hey, my transmission runs hot after I put this converter in there. How is it for street driving? Is it going to suck to drive now? No, absolutely not. You have a converter that has a lockup clutch. You're still going to have great manners on the highway, but every converter is going to act different in town. Boosted stuff is going to act different than NA stuff. So, trucks are going to act different than cars, but you always need to make sure that you put a good transmission cooler, run the right fluid, and maintain the transmission. Otherwise, the product's not going to last, no matter how good it is. We on bolt-on cars will even start. We don't even really start with a converter hardly below 3,600. I would have a 4,000 up would be in everything, but the general misconception is too much converter is going to drive poor on my car, and I'm not going to enjoy it. Where really, not enough converter is going to be worse than having too much. Really, you can get away with having too much converter before you can not enough. Cam stuff, that's going to completely dictate what you need to do on the converter. Some stuff is going to be fine with 35 to 4,000. Some stuff's going to need 4,500 to 5,000 and up. Turbo 400 stuff, we even get looser than that on the converter on some stuff, depending on what the combo is going to require. But always remember, the more converter you run, the more heat you're going to generate. The more important it's going to be to have some additional cooling there. Okay, what do we got here?
Zach Them said, I daily drove my Circle D 3C with the SS3 VVT with the ADM cooler and never had any heat issues at all and had really great street manners.
Yeah, that's the key. I mean, you can drive these things. They're going to make a little bit more heat in town, but normally when the lockup clutch comes on and you're cruising down the road, the temps cool back down. You certainly want to keep it below 200, and anything below 180, if you can keep it, around the 160 to 180 range, it's even better in terms of durability and longevity. You have to take all that into consideration when you're speccing your combo out. I'm not gonna put a guy in a 6,000 converter that lives in the desert. It's 130 degrees outside and expect him to have coast to coast drivability. That's all part of it. Somebody said the desk looks nice and clean.
Yeah, that's Marty Harrison.
No. Well, we had about 30 minutes before we started this deal to scramble and get together. We've been busy today, so.
Paul Vega said, how often should you change the trans fluid when you're running a big stall?
That's going to be kind of relative to what kind of abuse you're putting it through. I change stuff up enough that I have to change the fluid almost once or twice a year because I'm always changing something. But typically speaking, a lot of that stuff like that, it's good to do annually just as precaution. I like doing that. And it also helps you identify if you can catch having a problem developing. If you go to drain your trans fluid and it's burned up and it smells horrible, you've probably sometimes you can catch some issues starting before they just get real bad. I would say at least annually. But on basic bolt-on stuff and stock vehicles, there's guys that run 40, 50,000 miles without changing transmission fluid and longer. You know, so transmission fluid holds up pretty good as long as you're not beating it up with temperature. But I'd like to do stuff like that annually at least.
It's like John Solero's in here. Said he used a 4K stall as a daily driver for 2 years and loved it.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a lot of converter to do the things we want to do and get that performance with a lot of these cam setups and even on the boosted stuff. Most guys, I can't tell you how many times they've done a cam kit and thought either, man, I wish I'd have done more camshafts in my car, or man, I wish I'd have done more converter. Once they got past the initial fear of it, of what they read online or what their buddy told them, they realized that they could have gone bigger and probably had a little bit more fun with the combo.
Ivan Reyes said, looks like he's concerned on 5th gen running 3600 stall with our SS2 and ported heads about breaking the axles.
What breaks axles normally is wheel hop and poor driveline angle. Vehicles that are lowered put the CV axles at a worse angle, especially when the car squats. It kind of puts that joint at an angle where it's kind of it's going to be more prone to breakage, especially if it wheel hops and shakes the drive line. That's very violent. I've been 126 60 foot with my car with stock axles, stock differential, all that stuff. And I think on this last time out to the track, I may have finally gotten the left rear axle on the inner joint. And those are the original axles that came in the car in 2010. I wouldn't be afraid of stock axles as long as you have a stockish ride height and you're not wheel hopping this thing a lot, chattering the tires. That will break even the best axles out there. That's brutal on parts. I wouldn't hesitate to put more converter in the car. I wouldn't let the axles hold me up there. And a lot of times the converter actually has a little bit of cushion to it. It's kind of hard to explain. It's a little slushy, so it's not as violent as the tighter converters. Sometimes you've got a little bit of slush there that it kind of drives into that RPM. So sometimes it's a little easier on the drive line, in my opinion. So.
Kind of off subject here. Josh Hubbard's asking if there's a handheld tuner that you recommend to store multiple files for his G8. It says he has a great E60 street tune, but is interested in a more aggressive tune for race days only.
Yeah, we've messed with a few devices. We've got a few of the N gauges that we can utilize with the HP Tuner software. We've got the EFI Live Auto Cal, but we're kind of getting away from that stuff and moving more towards the HP Tuner's interface itself. It's relatively inexpensive, and will give you the option to store multiple tunes. You will need a laptop with it, but you can. The good thing about that is you have the ability to data log the car, and we can work through file exchange to to optimize the combo too, especially on stuff we've tuned in the past. But we're kind of moving with how the price point of HP tuners has come down over time. We're moving more along the lines of that because it gives our customers more a better device really for their money. Now you've got a device that you can log a wideband through. So when we are looking at data logs, we can look at more data. You get more bang for your buck with having HP tuners, in my opinion.
So Larry joined in.
Larry, you on your way back from Memphis yet? I think
Mike,
you went over there to eat barbecue today or something.
Mike Carroll wants to know about some info on our remote tuning with the new HP Tuner cable.
Well, the way we do our remote tuning, it's probably like most people. Once the customer has the device, you get that software pretty much installed and registered up on your computer. Customers read their files out, send that in the email that stuff to me with a fairly accurate list of mods, and I'll go through and I'll build a base file, send that back over, and then we'll start data logging and working the details from there. We'll work idle and drivability stuff, work our way into some heavier load and wide open throttle, and that's how we typically do our remote tuning. And some combos, it may take 3 to 5 file exchanges. Some it may take 15 to 20 to get to where we're both happy with performance and drivability. But that's kind of how we do it. Right now, as far as remote tuning and stuff, we're trying to stick with our combination of parts or bolt-on cars, stock vehicles. Not really trying to get into remote tuning, power adder stuff right now, boosted stuff or nitrous stuff. We still like to have eyes and ears on that product when we tune that stuff. So I want to stay with the NA stuff right now in remote tuning. But anything that we support LS LT based, we remote tune. So.
Marty Harrison's asking on a CTSV with our stage 3 blower cam, Circle D triple disc converter, what's a good stall for drivability?
Let's see here. Stage 3 blower cam. Converter is going to depend on how much power the car makes, really. Where it makes its power. A positive displacement deal like a CTSV, probably going to want to stay right there around the 3,000 RPM range. We're probably going to be on Circle D stuff. I would say we'll probably be around a 2.3 to a 3B, maybe an A stator on that. And I kind of lean on Chris Seahorn and those guys over there at Circle D on this stuff. I basically give them the info of my build, what kind of RPM range I have to work with, what kind of weight and gearing the car has, and what kind of power the vehicle makes and where it makes the power. And then we kind of come to an agreement on, hey, we think this is what it's gonna need, and that's how we kind of do that stuff. Our cam combos, we know what we need there, so we kind of stock that stuff. But this power adder stuff, like you're asking about, Marty, we do all that stuff custom, or build by build, and oftentimes we end up with something different on every build. So that's kind of how that works. But generally speaking, from a stall speed range, I would say you're probably going to be in that 3,000 RPM area on that deal.
Lewis says he's building a 68 C10 with an L99 and a 4L80E. Planning on running our SS3 VVT with a Circle D 3600. Heads will be stock, maybe just resurfacing. What gaskets would you recommend safely for piston clearance?
Well, SS3 VVT, unless you're milling the heads a lot or running a real thin gasket, really we stick with stock gaskets usually on that stuff. If a guy is going to run a power adder, we'll slide over to the LS9 gaskets on that mild stuff. You could run an SS3 VVT. You could actually run an 040 Cometic gasket on that if you're not milling the heads any. We leave just a little bit of wiggle room there, but we got to keep a safety margin there with this stuff because every engine varies just a little bit from one to the next on what kind of clearance there actually is there that's workable. So stock gasket will be fine. You could probably run an 040 gasket on that if you wanted to. So.
He's asking also, what about the LS7 lifters on that setup?
LS7 lifters will work fine on that setup. Probably the best bang for the buck upgrade is the GMPP, the Caddy race style lifters. Those lifters are certainly an improved design, and what are they? A little over $300 or something. While you're in there, that's worthwhile to consider that. But the LS7 lifters, that's by default, that's what we run on at least 75% of our builds. Unless we're going to a GMPP or a Johnson lifter. that's what we rock. So you should be fine with that. Just don't get the imitation knockoffs that you see that are, cheap. The Delphi lifters or whatever. There are some knockoffs out there, so be careful with that.
Jake joined in.
Oh, great.
Josh Nash wants to know, what do you know about the Vitech Ultimate LS ECU and intake system? Is it good setups for LS swaps? And it looks like we forgot to put the phone on Do Not Disturb.
We definitely did. The Vitech system, I'll be honest with you, I've only tuned on one or two of those. It was on a small block Chevy even at that, so I have absolutely zero knowledge or experience to offer on the Vitech on the LS deal. My understanding is, in general though, that Vitech system has come a long way, but we primarily are using Holley on most of our swap stuff that's not still carrying over the factory ECU. So I'm not much help on the Vitech deal, but from what I've read and heard, they do pretty well.
Rashad saying, what stall would you consider in a 13 Camaro SS running our SS4 cam?
5C Circle D. Should flash mid to upper 4,000s with that combo. It's definitely what I would run on that.
Too bad Wesley's not in here.
Oh,
This Jake wants to know, how bad is Fanta gonna get birthday?
hey, that's between you guys. That's, somebody's going to gap somebody, and then somebody's going to come back and say, hey, my stuff's not fast enough. So I'll let you guys hash that out.
Carnell wants to know, when going to a 5C converter from a stock converter, what's the best way to get used to the new setup and launching with the stall converter?
You just got to drive it and get used to it, as far as on the street, and kind of get a feel for how the thing reacts first. As far as knowing what's best at the track, how do I need to launch the car? Play with it. I would start at 1,500 RPMs or just off idle and foot brake it a little higher on every pass. The important thing is you need to dead hook this car at, I would probably say 500 RPM increments and see what it likes. You'll see it on the 60 foot. It will show up when you find what it likes. Some like to flash off idle. Some like to be kind of foot braked up where it almost feels like it's about to push the vehicle. Definitely don't be afraid to play with that a little bit and see what it likes.
Jason joined in. See, Robert Quick, a stage 2 GPI cam kit for a 14 Sierra. Do you have to run a torque converter with a stall?
Well, really, Robert, any cam will be better suited with a converter. A cam that's suited for a stock converter is kind of a compromise. It's still probably going to push against the brakes a little bit, but it's plenty drivable. Anything past I think we have one camshaft that's advertised for stock converter usage. Can you run the stage 2? You probably can. But low end is going to start to suffer. The more aggressive the cam gets, the more the bottom end is going to start to take a hit. And not necessarily not make power at 2,500 RPMs or anything, but in that area where you drive that off idle to 2,500 RPMs most of the time, the bigger cams are just lazier. You need a little bit of converter for it to be optimal. But it will run and drive on that camshaft, yes.
Got Michael Angel. He's got a 6th gen, full bolt-ons, heads cam package. I want to know about header consideration. Says he was going to go with the Cook's 1 7/8, but now he's reconsidering for the 2-inch. He's looking for the maximum power on a NA build. Should he go with the 1 7/8 or the 2-inch?
Those little engines make a lot of power. Something I'd like to do some more testing on now that we've got this engine dyno to play with is this stuff just like this. I can't tell you is an 1 7/8 going to be better than a 2-inch. I don't know. I've got inch and 7/8 on my car, and I went 920s at 144. But I've been looking at, like for my setup, I've been looking at the stepped copo headers. I don't know if there's going to be anything there or not for the money I'm going to spend. But if I was you and I was buying and I didn't own a set of headers and I was going to buy some, I'd probably say go ahead and get the 2-inch header. I don't think you're going to hurt yourself there. But I can't tell you, if there's 5 or 6 horsepower difference between the two. If there's more than that, I'd be surprised. There may be single digit power difference, but I would probably go towards the 2-inch on a cam head setup, anyways.
You just had to find a reason to throw that in there, didn't you? I ran a 920.
Well, I'm just saying, you can go a long ways on an inch and 7/8 header. Is all I'm trying to say.
Got Brandon Broadway in here.
Speaking of LT truck stuff, that's the man of the hour.
By the way, Brandon's still waiting on you to bring it back for the flex fuel.
Just saying.
Chris McCabe, Joni,
Yeah.
Brandon. Brandon Broadway wanting to know what piston package would you consider on the 5.3 LT if he's going to run boost?
Well, Brandon, we were talking just a little earlier when we just got this thing fired up. On our LT stuff, we already have the 6.2 drop-in stuff. And, when we were actually working on your truck and we had the heads off and we're looking at some things, we're like, man, we need to drop in solution for the 5.3 guys too. So that's actually in the works right now. It's in the engineering phase at Diamond right now as far as the pistons go. Our pistons are going to maintain the factory compression ratio. They're going to be set up to use 6 1/8 inch H-beam, like a Compstar rod, just like our 6.2 drop-in deal does. So that's in the works right now. That's what I would consider. I mean, that piston pin ring combo is good for certainly 1,000 plus horsepower. The Compstar rod is going to be kind of the weak point in that deal. And, we've made, 1,200 horsepower on that rod. I'm not saying go out and do that because it's, really you need an ultra rod at that power level probably, but that's what we're working on right now.
Zeke wants to know what kind of numbers are the new SS4 no fly cut cams putting down.
Well, just in the last couple of weeks, we've gotten some feedback on a couple of those combos. So I've had one car tuned. It was out on the East Coast. It was installed and tuned out there, completely independent from us. And it made 494 or 490, mid 490s, cam only, stock heads, in a manual car. Last week we had a customer install a cam and head set up SS4 no fly cut and our ported heads with a fast intake and long tubes, your basic bolt-on stuff in an L99 car. They deleted the VVT. 5C converter. It made 515 on pump gas, 522 on E85. And then Ben, that's working with us now, his car is a Turbo 400 car, and he's been 1050s with that camshaft with stock heads. He's got a decent amount of weight reduction to the car, so yeah, the car's light. But with through the Turbo 400, his car on our dyno made mid 450s on stock heads. So that's kind of where we're at. We're seeing it's a solid upper 400 horsepower cam only camshaft in even an automatic car. Really, if Ben's car was 6L80 with a lockup converter, it would solidly be in the 480 range, anyways.
Amish wants to know, would it be okay to turn more RPMs on a 5.3 than 6,000? He's got LS7 lifters, BTR double valve springs, and a Comp 454 cam running 175 shot.
Well, I'd have to look at that Comp 454 cam and actually even see what the specs were on that thing. You can take a stock bottom M53 7,000 RPMs, that's not a problem. But you, like as mentioned, I mean, you've got BTR dual springs. You've got the spring. That spring is solid as a rock into the low to mid 7,000s, anyways. Um, you have, from what I can tell, most of the valve train there. LS7 lifter will be fine with that. One thing, you just have to make sure that that camshaft lobe is not too aggressive to shock the lifter and create some bad valve train dynamics, and that's sometimes what we see. The bottom end of the engine on a 5.3 though, 7,000 is not a problem. Yes, where BM is at.
Yeah, Joshua Nash said, "Where's my boy Benjamin at?"
I think he's out tuning a truck right now. We had a Silverado we had to get done this afternoon, and by we I mean Ben.
He said probably slacking somewhere with the flop gym.
He probably is. He probably drove that truck home and started working on his car, and he'll come back up here in an hour and be like, "Yeah, this truck's good. It's done now." So
Kevin joined in.
yeah.
Yeah.
While we're waiting on some more questions to come in, let's talk about probably some upcoming product. We've got some stuff in the works. Trying to really work on some Gen 5 stuff that we feel like the market needs. Right now we are working with Ball Metal Fab, Travis Ball, on a 15-inch conversion kit of our own. There are some good options out there right now, and we're not setting this kit up to be the cheapest kit. We're saying I wanted this kit to be the most adjustable kit that used the best materials possible. It will likely use all Heim joint ends. It won't have any bushings. I aim for the lower control arm to be adjustable, where sometimes we run out of camber adjustability with the camber bolts. Yes, you can run different camber bolts in there and get a little bit more adjustability, but it'd be nice to have a adjustable lower control arm on that. It is going to utilize a coilover. It's not going to take the factory shock, and it will have the trailing arms. It will basically be a kit minus brakes that you can put 15s on your car. It should accept the 2010 11 style stock sway bar with the inboard links, or you can run something like a BMR sway bar, or the other aftermarket options that have some drag bars. Looking at this kit, it would probably take a BMR, or excuse me, a Strange or a Viking coilover. I've been looking at both options on that. Like I said, we're still working on that. It's nothing finalized there. I think he has some jigs built on some of that stuff, but working out the details on that. Obviously, it will work with our 15-inch brake kit, our aerospace brake kit, and that's coming out pretty soon. Otherwise, I don't know that I'm gonna let the cat out of the bag on any of the other stuff we've got working. We're gonna try to release some stuff on down the line. More stuff in the works, certainly.
Next question here from Josh Nash again. Perfect question for our man Dan over here behind the
Dan.
camera. You couldn't even put your hand in the camera when you waved. It wasn't on the screen. Anyways, Josh wants to know, are we going to offer a phone app for shopping soon?
There's nothing in the works for a phone app, but if we got enough feedback that people wanted a GPI app, that's certainly something we could do. We've got some other big stuff that's rolling out here shortly, so that will come first. But if people wanted a GPI app, we will give people a GPI app.
And by we, you mean you.
By we, I mean me.
Appreciate it, Dan.
You're welcome.
William Cooper wants to get SS3 cam package on L99 with stall converter, ported heads, rod mod, ported intake, long tubes, full bolt-ons, etc. What advantages would he see with the 391 gears?
Any cam setup with 391 gears is going to really come to life. Um, Stick cars, we go towards 410s a little bit these days. The 391 on the auto car lays you almost perfect with that camshaft's RPM range. You'll finish quarter mile at the top of fourth gear. Really utilize all four gears fully in the quarter. I've seen guys, even on just bolt-on cars, we've seen guys see a tenth and a half to 2/10 with 391 gears. A cammed car is going to be at least that much, and that's provided that you can put it to the ground and you're not blowing the tires and wasting your 60 foot, because a lot of it's going to come on that initial acceleration. But also to add to that, sometimes people think that the 391s are, is that going to kill my top end of my car? It's not. I mean, fifth gear is a gear that will accelerate in the 6L80 transmission too. So don't be afraid to put the gear in the car. I think a 410 is probably too much for a 6L80 transmission, since fourth gear is a 1.15 ratio. 391 is about a perfect fit with a 28-inch tire. So
Tony Moffrey wants to know about the GPI Mojo release date.
I don't know when that's coming out. I'm probably waiting on Prey Performance to finish the final touches so I can get some of Prey Performance's Mojo to co-release that at the same time. I'm just trying to learn, man. I'm just here to learn.
Caleb Cam Only Turner says, I need to get the 273s out of the Trans Am.
Yeah, you do. Those gears are horrible.
Horrible. To add to William's question, what size tire is recommended, 26 or 28, with that 391 setup?
Well, that came in right there at the end of my answer, but 28-inch tire is what I would say on that. You get a couple things there. 28-inch tire has more rollout, so the tire just works better. You've got more sidewall. A 28 just works better on the car. You've really got all the gear you need with a 391 and a 28-inch tire. You don't need a 26 on that setup, in my opinion. If you do, then you probably need to get with us on a cam kit to get more power.
Andrew Cameras wants to know who makes the best 410 gears. Motive, Yukon, another brand.
Motive and Yukon both make good gear sets in the 410 offering. Matter of fact, I wish Motive or one of those guys made a 430, but I think we're using the Motives on the 410 stuff, and we haven't had any issues. I know early on, when the 5th gen first came out, that first few years, there were some problems with some of the 410s that were out there, and I think that's been remedied, and we haven't really seen any kind of reoccurring issues or anything with 410s now.
On the topic of the gears, we've had a lot of people emailing and calling, asking about changing the gears out on a 6th gen recently. You can elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, that differential just flat out is not serviceable. So can you change the gears? Yes, you can, but you're going to have to change the whole differential assembly to do it. And I'm trying to think. I think the 373 out of the stick car is a direct swap over for the auto guys, but that's almost too much gear because you go from a 277 to a 373. Then you have the 327 gear, I think, but I think you have to change the axle setup. For that setup, is it doable? Absolutely, it is. But you can't just change the ring gear and pinion like you could, the old days.
Caleb's also asking what's your preferred nitrous manufacturer. Said that now that the converter's in, the nitrous and gears are next.
Nitrous outlets, who we use almost all of our nitrous stuff. We've dealt with those guys for years and always gotten great service and great products. So nitrous outlet is what we use on that. And, everything from the standalones to the plate or fogger kits. The That'd be where I would direct you.
Scotty Mahoney said, "What's up?"
What's up, Scotty? Too fast. Caught up in current. Need some questions. Send them in.
You want to hit that do not disturb button
Yeah.
at the top of that phone on the right hand side,
here?
where it says D&D.
Yeah.
Did you hit it?
I did.
Let's see, did you hit it again?
Okay, there we go. Nothing fresh. I think we've covered most of our topics we were going to talk about today. But just to recap, I want to start with what we kind of started with. Oh, we got a question here.
Yeah, Scotty wants to know your opinion on a cam with a daily weekend 6-speed.
I like the more aggressive stuff, so I would say, life for me starts around a SS3. There's guys that like milder stuff, and that's certainly fine, but our SS3 and even our SS4 no fly cut offer daily driver reliability. I mean, you can drive those things anywhere. What you get with a more aggressive camshaft is you degrade the drivability to somewhat, at lower RPM, so you have to learn to drive at a little higher RPM, hold the gear a little bit longer, and that gets worse with more aggressive cams. So depends on what you're looking for. If you want something that drives silky smooth, has nice sound, and picks up a little bit of power, SS1, SS2 range is probably what you want. And if you tend to lean more towards performance and don't mind giving up a little bit of that low speed drivability, SS3, SS4 is where you want to be. So
back to the remote tuning, William Cooper brought up a good point here. Does having a wideband on our cars help you with the remote tuning process?
Tremendously. Yes, tremendously. You can look at narrowband oxygen sensor voltages, but those aren't really accurate. You can make 3 pulls, out on the highway, and the wideband, you'll be within a few tenths of a point air fuel, and your narrowband O2 millivolts are all over the place, so you can get by with that somewhat on bolt-on and basic NA stuff, to get kind of a safe place, but a wideband is always super beneficial to really dial in the combo.
Well, Josh Hubbard here with a G8 want to know what bushings need to be replaced to keep the rear wheel from moving forward into the fender.
Aside from just bushings, I would look at doing arms and everything, Josh. In my experience with the G8s and the Gen 5s, really tightening up that rear chassis helps not only keep the tires planted and alignment better, you just flat out can put more power to the ground. Tow rods are a big one. The wheels try to really pull inward on the Gen 5 Camaros and the G8s, under heavy load, and tow rods, the trailing arms, and the lower control arm bushings are all areas that you can really improve upon. I said lower control arm, upper control arm bushings, because that stuff moves a tremendous amount, and unless you have a GoPro under there to see it, it gets pretty ugly. I've watched a lot of videos online about that and really learned a lot. So I would look at a minimum. I would look at doing trailing arms with poly bushings and the tow rods with poly bushings. Anyways,
William Smashy here said, do you think the LS3's best combo could end up being an MSD setup, or is it just not on the same level as the CID manifold?
The MSD just ain't gonna hang with the CID. When you're throwing some RPM at it, in the 6,000 RPM range, yeah, probably so. It probably is pretty close power wise there. But when you build a max effort combo to spend some RPM, um, I just really personally haven't found anything that worked better than the CID for the stuff that I've done. Um, the high ram's a good manifold. We run that in some applications, but I think if you're not restricted by running an elbow and you can run a vertical throttle body, I feel like the CID manifold is going to be your best NA option with the right combination of parts beneath it.
Andrew Cameron wants to know how much compression can you add without fly cutting on the SS3.
Not really much. I mean, you could run an 040 gasket. Like I said, I tried to build enough pad there to where a guy could run a thin gasket or knock 5 or 10 thousandths off the heads, but not really much than that. You're not going to get probably more than a few tenths of a point without having to fly cut, because LS3 just has such a big intake valve. You run out of clearance so fast on that thing. It's kind of hard to work around.
What's the best mild cam for a daily 13 Silverado with the DOD delete?
Our little low lift truck cams, low lift 1 and low lift 2, and it's going to be dependent on whether it's a 5.3 or a 6.2, but or 4.8. Those little low lift cams just work so good in the truck stuff. Most of your truck guys want a little bit of added power. They want to get that active fuel management out of there, which I agree with 100%. But they're not looking for something that's just crazy rowdy. They want something that's going to sound good and run okay. And our low lift cams that will utilize the LS3 valve springs. That's what we kind of lean towards on that stuff. And we do some high lift versions of that stuff, where you can run dual springs. But most guys just stick with the low lift stuff, run an LS3 beehive, factory spring, and not have any problems and get everything they're looking for.
Oh, he said on the 5.3, sorry.
Oh, yeah, and the 5.3 is really sensitive to camshafts. You've got to watch what you're doing there, because it is really, really easy to overcam a 5.3. And if I had a daily driver 5.3, which I do, it's 2017 truck, but I'm certainly not camming it because, I got a race car for that. The 5.3. I wouldn't get over 215 degrees of intake duration on something I was driving every day with a stock converter. Okay, what we got?
Raymond Cole wants to know when's the next track rental or track tuning day. Says he got some tires and some race stars, and he's trying to put that track attack to work.
Well, that's something I'm kind of trying to. I'm eyeing the weather right now. I'm working around a few hurdles. We're trying to get a couple cars done and make have 5 or 6 cars there, and I've got just a couple that we're buttoning up right now, and I hope we're going to do something at the track by the end of this month. I just need to kind of keep an eye on the weather and reach out to Terry over there and get the track locked down for a day. But I wanted to get a little bit closer to getting a couple of these cars done where I could feel a little bit more comfortable about committing to a day.
Chris McCabe wants to know how's the torque with the low lift truck cams when he's looking for a little help towing.
Really low speed torque on our smallest one is, there's not much difference in factory. That camshaft really is geared more towards picking up a little bit in the mid-range RPM and a little bit up top and kind of maintaining that factory RPM range. It doesn't really bump the torque down low. That's kind of a hard thing to do with just a camshaft, Chris. You're almost better suited to do something with gearing or your bolt-on mods to start with, because you won't really have any sacrifice of load and torque like you can on a camshaft.
Ivan Reyes wants to know, 2014 Camaro L99, does he need to replace the intake and exhaust valves with the LS3 valves or other ones when putting in the SS2?
No, you don't have to. The exhaust valve is the same weight, so that's negligible. But the LS3 does have a lighter intake valve. If you've got some and you want to change them, you're fine. But where the SS2 cam makes power, you're fine from a valve train stability standpoint with the L99 intake valve. Matter of fact, we spun that valve, 7,000 plus RPMs with the BTR 660s, and we're fine there. But anytime you can reduce that mass, you're going to be better off. So if you got them, rock them. If not, I wouldn't worry about it with the SS2 because you're not going to really spin it much past 6,800, 7,000 anyways.
Robert Quick said he's interested in hearing more about our L83 cam packages. Would you recommend a particular cam over the others, lifters, trunnion upgrade?
Well, Robert, we've got, I think we've got a pretty inclusive kit on our website now, and we offer several options with camshafts, and we offer some lifter options. Are the trunnion upgrades, is that part of the cam kit checklist in there? Okay. I know at first I don't think we had that. We added that. The trunnion upgrade, we've really started leaning towards that on this 1/8 rocker arm stuff, because that ratio kind of works it a little harder. We're going to get into that on another tech article sometime soon with the LS7 stuff, but I'd certainly recommend doing the trunnion bushings. If you want to just replace the AFM lifters with 7 or 8 LS7 lifters, you can do that. You can option the kit with 16 lifters, with new lifters, Johnson lifters, GMPP lifters, all new LS7 lifters. We offer the camshafts from stage 1 through 4, and 2 of the cams use our 0 degree limiter kits, which basically they lock out the phaser where it can't move. 2 of the camshafts are designed to use the 4 degree phaser limiter where it can have up to 4 degrees of travel, and all that stuff should be updated and live on the site now. We've also got a really killer cylinder head program for the L83, and we tested all this stuff on Brandon Broadway's truck, which was in here a little earlier on the podcast. We had a converter in his truck, so we were able to get a little bit more aggressive with the cam while we do not SS4, but the stage 4 cam on his. Is that what we did? It was a 3. Okay, we did the stage 3 cam on his, but we did a little Circle D converter. It was a B stator 3B?
It was a 3B.
Yeah, 3B, and that thing turned out really, really well. Lightly milled the heads, and we're waiting on him to come back and do the flex kit on that truck. That's going to be a monster. But one thing we found out, Robert, on testing his truck and testing things on his truck with his combo, was that the 6.2 intake manifold is a direct bolt-on, and it gained power on the dyno over the 5.3 manifold just bolting it on. But you do have to get the 6.2 throttle body. The flange is a different bolt pattern for the 2 throttle bodies. And then we ported a 6.2 truck manifold and picked up even more power. And I think those results are posted on there as well. But it was certainly a worthwhile mod because that intake manifold, for the money, it was priced really well. And some pretty nice gains for what you get there.
I believe we have that package on the site as well.
Yeah.
It's called the Broadway package.
That's fitting. But what was he saying about that? Robert, on the camshaft, which one, that's going to, shoot us an email or give us a call. Which one is going to work right for you and what you're wanting to do. visit with us a little bit on what type of usage you're going to have. You know, whether you want something to hot rod with, or you're going to still tow some, or you're going to want to run a converter. You know, let us know what you're looking for, and we can certainly put you a package together to accommodate what you're wanting to do.
Looks like Zach Bowman joined in.
Yeah. Zach's probably just in here to fire some people up.
He does that.
I bet that's what he's in here for.
I think that might be about all the questions on here.
Yeah. Like I said, guys, hit us up if you got any questions about anything we talked about, any of the packages pertaining to anything we have. Primarily, we were talking about the LT truck market today, torque converters. You know, shoot us a message, give us a call. Happy to help in any way we can, and we appreciate you guys tuning in.